Today gamers, we're going to be jumping back into a little bit more Diablo 4. We now know pretty much everything there is to know, and I'm going to be going over the Paragon boards and the Paragon system, and why I think it may be a little bit better than people are giving it credit for. So if that interests you, stay tuned. That's coming up next. So today we're going to be taking a look at Diablo 4, a little bit more of the endgame content as you're leveling up, what you're going to be unlocking, and why I think the Paragon board may actually be a lot better than people are realising. Remember, the board itself will open up a little bit later on to the game. You're going to have to have hit level 50, and that's when the Paragon system really kicks in, and you're able to allocate your points into the new board in order to boost your character's stats and give them additional things into their build that's going to make them a lot more powerful overall. Now, one of the reasons why this wasn't widely anticipated is because one of the first screenshots that the developers actually gave us was a little bit on the lackluster side. All it showed us was a board with some nodes, and then it showed a normal node with 5 willpower. This was not received very well, and everyone thought, well, it's just going to be some standard stat boosts, this is pretty awful, and overall I think it led a lot of people to think that the Paragon system itself is going to be very underwhelming. Now that we know a little bit more about it, I actually think it's in a very good place, especially for a game just starting out. These boards and the nodes you start unlocking are really going to help your character to shine, and I think you can be able to personalise them quite a lot in order to tweak it to your playstyle. Remember, you can get a whole bunch of different nodes, 5 in total, that you're going to be allotting your available points into, and once you've completely maxed everything out, you're going to have 220 points to spend overall. Now, you've already seen your standard node boosting up your main stat, such as your stamina, strength, intelligence, but then from there you've also got higher tier ones, such as your magic node, which is going to be a blue one just here, and these overall are going to give you a slightly wider array of things to choose from, as well as being a little bit more powerful. Like see this one, 8.5% crackling energy damage. As well as that, one's not to be underrated, as in most cases these are going to be the best ones to spec into, and that's going to be your rare nodes. Such as this one right here, you can see how truly powerful these are. So this one's going to be Hunter Killer, 32% damage to elites, 14% movement speed for 4 seconds after killing an elite, and 14% movement speed for 4 seconds after killing an elite. That is an absolutely massive boost, and one that you will almost definitely want to invest in. The reason it's so strong, it was originally 16%, but as you can see, you've got a bonus, another 16% damage to elites if the requirement is met. So because you've actually got quite high on your stats, so you needed 260, he's got 315, that's now unlocked the additional 16%, making it 32% damage to elites. A lot of these nodes will be ones you'll want to invest in order to make a truly powerful build. But the great thing about these Paragon boards is that you don't have to. You'll be able to choose which way you want to go, you'll be able to work out which nodes to pick up, which ones to leave, and I think overall you're going to have a lot of people with completely varied and different boards to another person. In fact, if we take a look at the legendary nodes, such as this one right here, Ceaseless Conduit, it shows just how strong some of the legendary nodes should be, and a lot of times you'll make your way towards these and you'll definitely want to pick them up. Ceaseless Conduit, Crackling Energy has a 25% chance to not consume a charge when triggered, and Crackling Energy's damage is increased by 2% per total intelligence you have. So like I said, this will do a massive amount of extra damage. It's something you're 100% going to want to pick up as a Sulk, as long as it's something you're actually speccing into. If you're going down that Crackling Energy and Lightning route, this one's going to be absolutely amazing. If, however, you're a Flame Mage, or maybe you're going for Ice, then it may well be a Paragon board, or at least a node, that you're not going to want to use or even head towards. So even though some of these legendary nodes are amazing, it may not apply to the build that you're going for, so sometimes you will completely steer clear of them. And of course then we've got the final one, which is probably the most interesting out of all of them, and that's going to be your glyph sockets, where you're going to be putting your glyphs into. You'll be acquiring a lot of glyphs throughout your journey within the world, and then you'll be able to pick the ones that you think suit you best, or maybe even something you're lacking in a build, and then slide it into your Paragon board in order to activate an additional effect. Remember, each glyph is going to be different, and this one is going to be the glyph of the Tactician. So it's going to grant 50% bonus to all rare nodes within range, which again, we saw just how powerful some of those rare nodes are, and that's why you're definitely going to want to be investing in the strongest ones for your build. But as well as that, this comes with an additional bonus. You deal 10% increased damage for 4 seconds after casting a defensive skill, which is absolutely awesome. It means it's going to give you a bit of offense whenever you're trying to activate a bit of a defense boost. These glyphs, we've already found out, can be boosted even further. You're going to get further range, you're going to get higher effects on them when you start leveling them up in those nightmare dungeons, and overall they're going to be able to make the Paragon board you have in place very powerful in those certain areas you've slotted them into. But again, if we look down the bottom, there's other things you've got to think about when you're placing these as well. For this one, the requirements met is going to be 25 dexterity, and it looks like it has to be within that radius in order for it to activate the effect. So ultimately there's definitely going to be a bit of planning involved, and I can quite easily see some respecking going on further down the line in order for you to make the perfect build that you're going for. But if we zoom further out, showing a bit more of the Paragon board, you can see right here there's actually quite a bit going on with it. Each one of the boards will have one glyph socket and one legendary node, and in general the legendary nodes usually enhance a certain playstyle that you're going to be going with for your build. For example, with a barbarian you may have one that gives you extra damage or extra effects because you've applied bleed or extra damage on top of a bleeding enemy. Like I said, sometimes you want to use them, sometimes you may not use the board whatsoever, and instead you'll pick a completely different Paragon board to work towards and then unlock. Just at the edge of the map you can see that these are the gates. These are going to be what you need to head towards in order to place the additional board and carry on adding your points, working your way towards those bigger nodes. This, to me, I think is probably a bit of an unoptimized board, just to show you exactly how it works, but even from this you can actually tell there's quite a lot going on with it. You're almost definitely not going to be able to use every single board you have in your arsenal. I believe there's around about 8 that you can choose from, so you're going to have to pick and choose which ones you want and try to get the very best things from them. I actually think this is a very good system in place, especially when the game first releases, because it's not too overly complicated, but it definitely has enough depth so that everyone will have a very different take on things. Some people may well invest a lot more in their basic nodes in order to boost their standard stats, maybe get a bit more crit or crit damage. Others may be trying to get much further into the Paragon board and unlock a few more of them in order to use additional glyphs, or maybe get some more legendary nodes going. But ultimately I think this has a hidden layer of depth to it, which will make for some truly unique builds whilst not being so over the top complicated, so you'll have to look online, and without it you'd have absolutely no idea what you're doing. I am really looking forward to Diablo at launch and can't wait to make my way into this Paragon system. But yeah, let me know what class you're looking forward to playing when the game's fully out, and as always, for all things gaming, take care. I'll see you on the next day.